starting in 3 minutes and 55 seconds. We're just making sure everything's checking. If y'all could leave a comment saying, we hear you, we see you. Want to make sure things are operational from this side. Please leave a comment. Thank you. You see how it has a number of people, like little heads there? Can you see me? What's happening?
Unfortunately, I can see it very closely.
What's the head count right there? Oh, it was at 5. It's down to 2. Oh, we got a thumbs up?
Yeah.
Terry Proctor. All good. Awesome. Thank you for that. It is Hawaiian Shirt Friday, if you cannot tell. Mr. Sean Moran, our operator, IT expert. It's a habit he helped instill in me. And so we're celebrating Hawaiian Shirt Friday.
We got loud and clear.
Yeah? Awesome. Very cool. So we will start at 2 o'clock Central precisely. We're in San Antonio, Texas right now at the San Antonio AGC office. They were gracious enough to let us utilize their space. And there's been a lot of learning that's taken place in this hollowed room. We get the other camera on?
Yeah.
Boom. So I realize it may be a little challenging as there's not going to be voice interaction, but please, comments and questions, we'll do our best to address them because this is my first time. This is Sean Moran's first time. So thank you for being a part of our maiden voyage here. But as you have questions, thoughts, or comments, please leave a remark for us and we'll do our darndest to respond to you. Cool. Sean, you should get up here and let them see your Hawaiian shirt, Sean.
Do you think they need to see my Hawaiian
They need to
shirt
see
today?
you're the one that started the whole thing, so yes.
Come around this side.
For the grand entrance.
That's something to get into for you. There you go.
There it is.
Howdy, folks. Thanks for joining us. Looking forward to having a good time with y'all and this dude.
Cool. Thank you, Sean. You're awesome. 40 seconds. Man, that's awesome. We got liftoff.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Twenty seconds. Haven't quite figured out StreamYard or any of those other fancy softwares that will be doing the countdown automatically. So we're doing it old school. Boom, and it is 2 o'clock. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to some goofy stuff. My name, as I'm speaking, please, if you don't mind, type your name in there in the comments and also let us know why you're here. Why did you decide to dedicate your time and spend it with us? So I'll give you my introduction. My name is Jesus Hernandez. Most people know me as Jesse. My background, I began in the construction industry as a plumber, second generation plumber. From there, I evolved or devolved into a lean maniac. Worked for a major general contractor for just over 3 years, where I got to work with Mr. Sean Moran and got exposed to this methodology. It's not brand new. It's existed for a long time, but there's some significant things that transformed the way I think and deeply impacted the way I approach continuous improvement now as compared to how I used to do it previously. That's who I am. We got Sean Moran. Sean Moran.
So I'm Sean Moran. I am here to support a buddy and this effort, getting the word out on this Gemba-based improvement stuff.
Yes.
It's transformed the way I've looked at construction. I've been in construction since I was 15, and I'm 45 now. So been in the trades quite a while, got out of school and got into the management end of it, and did it for almost an entire career and never looked at work this way, you know? So, and that's been the feedback we've gotten from a lot of folks. So I definitely believe in it, and I think folks need to hear it.
Nice. Do we have any introductions to the comments, Sean?
We've got a Get It, Jesse.
Get it, baby.
From the Laying Foundations podcast.
Okay.
And we've got, I just like the word Gemba from Mr. Terry Popper.
Terry, Gemba.
So appreciate that. Oh, Felipe,
Uh-oh.
senior engineer, says, hi, Jesse.
Hello, Felipe. What do you think of the kicks? I got dressed up just for you. We can't see that?
There we go. They are worth seeing.
Watch out.
Yep, looking good.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. Keep the comments coming. I'm going to jump right into it. Our agenda, we just went through introductions. Going to touch on outcomes because I want to set the hook, right? I want you to know that this thing can have enormous impact on a job, safety and financially. Then we're going to talk about process stuff, which is, we're really just going to glance the surface of the process, maybe introduce you to some vocabulary, not get too deep into the things. We could do that at a later time. And then we're getting into the people stuff, which is the most impactful transformational thing that I've taken away that I want to impart to the audience at large. And I pinky promise, there are going to be some things in the people stuff that you can go and apply on your project tomorrow. You would even be able to go and teach somebody these little tactics tomorrow. So I'll keep hammering that home. It may sound super simplistic and really easy to achieve, but it's a matter of practice. And then we'll close up with plus deltas. And also, as we're going through this, if there's things that stink and are horrible, put it in the chat, because I'm going to go back and study it so that we can improve this going forward. If there's something that's outstanding and amazing, like the shirt or the hair, the highlights, the silver
sock game.
Sock game is strong.
Joshua likes the socks.
Thank you. Please put that stuff in there because we want to improve and get better. Moving on. We went through introductions, outcomes. So here are some outcomes as a result of what I'm going to tell you that we've experienced. Now, the first one is a little loosey-goosey because we haven't exactly realized all of it yet, because people are people and processes are difficult to change. But as a result of applying this Gemba-based improvement, the methodology, we identified some improvements that would remove completely off of the job site up to 1,200 labor hours for a trade partner on a project, on a confidential project. How about that? Now, within those 1,200 hours, every single second of those 1,200 labor hours was filled with risk. And when I say risk, I mean risk to the human being. Soft tissue injuries, breakages, flying debris in eyes, these types of things. And through the study of the work of the human being, we're able to identify and surface these things. And they've existed there for, we had done one whole building or 2/3 of a building. Several months of this work was going on, and Sean and I both walked past it without realizing that there was that much hazard. But through the application of this Gemba-based improvement, we're able to see it, and it was like, oh my goodness, we got to do something about that. Another one, we were able to deploy an improvement that is in play and has been approved upon since then that took an operation from 280 labor minutes down to 23 labor minutes. Now that doesn't sound like a big deal. That was for one unit. And they have 12 of those units in each of these spaces. And they have these spaces, by this point in time, they're up to 20 separate spaces. So if you do the math, it's a whole lot of time, a whole lot of risk that got eliminated. So this one particularly, the individuals had to work off of a ladder and were kind of leaning and wrestling and fighting. That is entirely gone now. The work now takes place right here at waist level with almost entirely zero risk. The last outcome was a reduction of 142 labor minutes down to 78 labor minutes. And again, this happened 40 times in one space, and they're at about 16 separate spaces where this improvement has been applied. So they've realized the gains from this effort, and as in terms of safety, we took out 46% of the risk of somebody being crushed or run over. This was an operation utilizing a forklift, and through the nature of studying the work the way we're gonna introduce to you, we were able to see it and do something about it and actually just remove it. And, you know, of course, head counts went down. We were able to put those workers doing some more meaningful work and really leverage their talent. But those are the outcomes that we've already achieved. Now, I will be honest and transparent. I've had the opportunity to do this, apply this learning in San Antonio, in Denver, in Dallas, and not every engagement has been the same. But through a lot of practice and determination and support, we've been able to refine it and really understand how to get there and have some impact on the job. So process stuff. For the lean maniacs on the call, you're probably familiar with the content of the work, which is value add, incidental, and waste. Value add, that's what the next person in line wants and needs. That's what they expect from me. That's a value added activity. Incidental, that's the stuff we gotta do, period. Right? You might be able to minimize it, but it's gotta happen in order for the operation to be completed. It doesn't necessarily add value, but it has to happen. And then waste, that's just the stuff that we don't need to do. Like me moving around as much as I do, that is a form of waste because I don't have to move around. I just move around a lot. Then we get into characteristics, and you may, up here it's red, those red letters say hard. And that is the foundation of the transformation in this type of engagement, because we are redefining what hard is. And we allow the hard work to guide the improvement effort. So when we talk about hard, I'm not talking about carrying an 80-pound sack of concrete on our shoulder, because some of us may argue that that's really not hard either. What I'm talking about is if my shoe was untied, or if I had a little pebble in my shoe and it irritated me, but I could still accomplish the target. I could still travel the path, and I'd have maybe a little blister. Not such a big deal. But if I have to do it every day, 8 hours a day for a few years, now it's hard. If I had to hold this water bottle out, not a big deal. If I got to hold this water bottle up here for 10 minutes, I'm going to get tired. It becomes hard. So we're recalibrating our definition and understanding of what hard work is, and we're going to let that drive the momentum or the reason for the improvement ideas. Then we talk, there's some unevenness, you know, when we stand around or sit around, somebody's working, somebody's not working, then they hand it off, the next person's working, this person's not working anymore. That would qualify as uneven work. And then the next filter that we go through in assessing the work is the categories of work, which is periodical, cyclical, and abnormal. Abnormal, that's the stuff we want to take out, kill it, get it out of there. Periodic work is the stuff that happens. So imagine you're making a sandwich for a family of 4, and you're going to use 2 slices of bread for each person. you got to take out 8 slices of bread. Well, you got to kind of take the little twisty thing off, do your deal, and then put the twisty thing back on. The activity of removing the twisty and putting the twisty back on the bread would qualify as periodic work. It's a part of the task, but it only happens at different phases or maybe even a lower frequency. And then cyclical. Cyclical is slice of bread, slice of bread, slice of bread, slice of bread, right? Put the stuff on it, put the stuff on it, put the stuff on it. That would be cyclical. How we doing on the chat? Everybody good?
Everybody's good.
No complaints, no echoes? Love it. Hearts, minds blown all over the place. So here's an example of the field sheet that we utilize to capture the steps of the work. And this piece here, there's 29 different line items here. And in these 29 different line items, that really was only about 2 minutes and 40 seconds of observing the individual work. And to be clear, we were looking at one person, one human being do their work. And so there's some development to be had. You know, another thing that we're working to, that you'll get from this learning or this application is you'll develop a critical eye. And what that means is, think about when you watch somebody work and try to describe their work. The simple description usually is, oh yeah, well, they went and installed a lavatory or a kitchen sink. There's a whole lot more that goes on to installing a kitchen sink. They've got to take the sink itself, pull it out of the box. That's a separate task. Then they may smoke a cigarette. That's a separate task, which would qualify as waste. Then they've got to put the trim on the sink. Then they got to put the basket strainers on the sink. They got to get rid of the trash. They got to place the sink on the countertop, so on and so forth. So all of those things are steps. They've got to kneel down, they've got to lay down, they got to twist over, they got to grab a tool. We are getting into steps that would be quantified or measured in terms of seconds. Yes, yes, seconds. So once we do that, we compile all the lists, we study the video if you have video camera. If you don't, that's okay, because you can do it live and in person. Analog is always fun. And then we'll identify how many of those steps are value add, incidental, or waste. And you can't see, this is the value add column. And there's 4 X's. Yeah, 4 X's out of 29 different line items. Only 4 of them were identified as value added activity. So that helps us understand that those human beings that are executing the work right now, they're spending very little, very small amounts of their time adding value. And nobody shows up to work to be waste. But because of the way the work is designed, they're only able to deliver a very small portion of value. Incidental work, an example here, they had to lift the tube and slide the bolts in. They were assembling some stuff. Like, it just has to be done because of the way the work is currently designed. That was a larger percentage. And then you see waste. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So about 33% of this 2.5 minutes was waste. Now, just to help, I'm talking about in terms of seconds and minutes, and I know that might be a little minuscule. However, these activities were things that happened thousands of times on this project. So those seconds add up. And I think you know, but just in case, weeks and months, they all are made out of seconds. So the seconds matter. Then we identify which of these things were hard. And as I talked a little while ago, it's critical that we have a different view or recalibrate our understanding and definition of what hard is. Otherwise, you'll do it like I used to do it. And what I mean by that is then we're only focused on optimization. And how good does it feel when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I see what you're doing, that you've been doing for 3 years, and I'm going to tell you a better way. Because your way, your method is full of waste. That don't fly, right? That ain't cool. So the intent here is we're going to let the hard work drive us, and we will talk to the installer and say, hey, this is what we observed, and this looked kind of hard. Almost every time they're like, nah, bro, that ain't that hard. Until we should try a different way. They're like, oh my God, that was hard. I didn't realize how hard it was. Then, moment of silence here, moment of applause, please. Because I did, like, see that little fancy GIF or GIF, whatever? Like, I figured out how to do that. I'm pretty damn proud of it. So after we logged all the steps and identified whether they're value add, incidental waste, and which of them are hard or uneven, then we capture the time, the exact time taken to execute every single line item. Yes, it is laborious. I've been trying to figure out like a formula for it. It's about 3 to 5 times. So if you've got 1 minute of video, it's somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes to actually break it down. So, cheat code, don't go record 8 hours of work because you'll never finish breaking it down. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, that's a good place to start. Hell, start with 5 minutes because you're probably not doing it right now anyways. Now, from there we get in and we identify the same items as whether they're cyclical, periodic, and abnormal. And then we visualize the percentage of cyclical activities, periodic activities, and abnormal activities. And we visualize that by using the Yumazubi chart. And if you haven't heard of Yumazubi, look it up. It's really just a stack chart, but it's so much more fun to say Yumazubi. What do you think, Sean?
It's been a couple of weeks since I've been scared by that. So very nice, good job.
Yes, thank you. And so you can see on this side, this is the current state. This is the baseline. Shout out Jennifer Lacey. This is the baseline of the work as it's being executed per the typical approach. And you'll notice the A, which represents abnormal, there's a big chunk. Then we're going to set a target. This is our target condition. That A gets smaller. So we want to attack the abnormal along with the hard. Hard first, because that's when we are better serving our people. And that's one of the critical elements for me that I want to communicate to you. Approaching it in this manner helps us really become servants. Yes, sir.
Manny Rivera has a question. What is A?
Abnormal. A would, and thank you, Manny. A represents abnormal. P represents periodic, and C represents cyclical. Abnormal work, an example of an abnormal activity would be me answering my phone or picking up my phone to update my Facebook with the pretty selfie. Like, that's not part of the task or activity, but I'm doing it for whatever reason. Another thing would be dropping my wrench. Like, that's not part of the plan. So it would qualify as an abnormal activity. Hope that added some clarity, sir, and thank you for the question. So, again, identifying the hard activities will then help us brainstorm and come up with the improvement ideas. And so we use the improvement ideas, we put them in 3 buckets. Some of them are do it now. Some of them are short term, meaning it may take a week or so of coordination, acquiring resources, tools, material, equipment to minimize the burden in the work. And some of them are long term. I mean, Sean's working through one still. That wasn't an attack at you, Sean. There's a lot of people involved. And so what the improvement's going to require is this segment or element of work to be moved up to the manufacturer. And it makes perfect sense. Everybody agrees, except for there's dollars attached to it. And people are getting hung up on who's going to pay for it, who should absorb the cost, who should get a credit. And so now you get politics in it, and it's killing the damn improvement effort. But it is one of those long-term things because we had to go to the client, had to go to the manufacturer, get project managers involved. There's a bunch of people involved to make it happen. So that's an example of a long-term improvement idea. What did I miss, Sean?
I've got a couple of comments here.
Okay.
One from Jen Lacey. I don't think either one of these are questions, just your comments. Jen Lacey, when we are better serving our people, comes back to respect for people, are we creating win-win opportunities?
Yes. Yes. Jen Lacey.
It's a good one. And then Cameron Crandall
Yep.
says, delivery is everything for this to be well received and generate the collaboration. Great suggestions. Poor delivery could equal conflict.
Oh, I had a conversation earlier today about delivery. Delivery makes all the difference in the world. Now, we're talking about improvement ideas, and it's not just your typical, hey, let's try this. We also want to know commitment time. How much impact is that improvement going to have in terms of time? Is it going to impact quality? Is it going to impact safety? Now, the time element is critical because we use that estimate of what that improvement will gain to really define what the target Yumazubi is. So again, there's some discipline, and also you got to get out of your comfort zone, because I've noticed, I don't know if you remember, Sean, people are like, well, I don't really know. Like almost every time, whatever you estimate that you think is like enormous, it's not enormous enough. It will have way bigger impact than you think it'll have. So that is the improvement strategy. The top slice of this burger is job instruction. There are a few videos on YouTube. Don't look at them now. Stay here with us, please. But there are a few videos on YouTube that will demonstrate what job instruction looks like. And I want to be clear, there are two elements to job instruction. One is writing out the document that explains the different elements that I'm going to talk about here in a bit. That's only, I would say that's like 30% of the work. If all you've done is fill out the damn sheet, you still got work to do. The other part is actually delivering the instruction, and there's a particular methodology at which to do that. Again, you can go to YouTube, seek out, what's his name? Josh from LEI. He's got a beautiful one on there about folding shirts. You can look up TWI, training within industry, or you can look up job instruction. And maybe I'll include a link in the notes after this whole thing's over, so that you can get a better understanding of what job instruction looks like. It's powerful. It may cause your eyes to roll a little bit, but I know that it's powerful. Now, in job instruction, there's three key elements. One of them is, what are the important steps in the operation? And you know, there's some calibration to be had here as well, because some of us are extremely detail oriented, and we may want to slice that pie up 3,000 ways. And you want to slice it up relative to the experience of the person you're going to be teaching, which I know that's pretty damn subjective, but that's what you're getting today. Now, for each important step, we got to identify a key point. And specific definition, or when you're thinking about key points, what you want to think about is, what are the make or break techniques to execute the important step? What are the elements that ensure safety and ensure quality? And what are like the tricks of the trade? You know, the little mañas, the little habits that you develop, the cheat codes. You want to document those so that whomever is practicing and learning this new skill or this step, they can leverage your knowledge. They don't have to go learn it the hard way. And then after you document that, then you will explain or write down, capture the reason for each key point. Yes, labor intensive. This is a pretty intense process. The real value in articulating why the key points are critical is because I know you've experienced this, where you explain to somebody, do it this way, and then they skip some of it. Well, they skip it because they don't know why. They haven't experienced the pain of skipping. And so if we articulate why you want to do the key points and why that is important, they're less likely to skip it. Now, again, watch the video on job instruction. It'll help you understand how that is deployed. And there's a coaching, like an observation element built into it. Super powerful. It is time consuming, but tons of benefit. Next. So that's the process stuff. And I know, I promised you, right? Like that was going to be super high level, very, very surface stuff. But I want you to, we talked about outcomes. Those were some enormous outcomes. The process is intense. And so what I just covered in 27 minutes is nowhere near the amount of time it would require to help you have a command of this knowledge. But I'd love to spend some time with you in the future and helping you get there. Now I want to get into the people stuff. And this is where the transformation happened for me, where I now know to my bones that this is the way I need to be doing things going forward. And this is what I would love for you, all you lean maniacs, continuous improvement addicts, to begin shifting your thinking towards. So one of the elements that we learned through, as I mentioned, we did this in Denver, did it in Dallas, and there were some less than amazing situations. But tilling the ground. Sean and I decided to call it tilling the ground because before we go out and start studying this work, which can be done, I don't recommend it at all. We have to have a connection with the human beings that are doing this work. And when I say connection, I don't mean introduction or reading their name off their hard hat or their badge. I mean knowing them and them knowing you. And if you don't know, in order for that to happen, you got to spend time with them. And so so that it's not just, loosey-goosey, hi, how are you? I want to get to know you. You can be very strategic about how you spend that time with them. So one thing, and again, all of these are from painful missteps, is get permission. Ask them. Hey man, so Ivan, perfect example. I say, Ivan, how you doing? He didn't know me, never met me before. And I explained to him what we were intending to do. And I kind of had okay, so you're going to have a video camera and watch me and my guys work? Like, well, yeah. I said, but not without your permission, man. I need your permission first to come into your space and understand what y'all are doing. Like, I don't know what you're doing. You got it going on. You've been pumping this stuff out. I just need to learn, and I'm going to ask some questions. But if you're not okay with it, then I'm going to have to go somewhere else. As soon as we had that little dialogue, he said, man, well, you got time right now? I said, yeah. And he walked me and just with all the pride in the world, showed me his entire operation, the planning and the thinking, all his pain points. And it was like, okay, first step in, right? Doors open, got my toe in there. But we didn't stop there. Got to meet the rest of the crew. Juan, Armando, Felipe, amazing, super amazing guys. Like at first, you may have experienced this if you had any kind of leadership or influence responsibilities on a project where most of the workforce will avoid eye contact because, usually the only time they talk to us is when we're complaining about something. Not anymore. I walk those hallways and I'm getting fist bumps. They're like, hey man, what's up? Like we're cool now, we're bros. So connecting with the people. Another thing learned the hard way is learn the process. And what that means is be present to see the process unfold in front of you. That may happen in a couple of hours. In this case that I'm referring to, it took several days because different elements of this work were happening at a different frequency and at different times. When I asked them, because we, as human beings, our brain has developed to filter out the unnecessary details. And so hey man, so what is your product? What are the steps that you have to deal with? The answer I got was, we receive the stuff, we assemble the stuff, and then we install the stuff. Okay, we got some comments. What do we got, Sean?
All right, catch up to the other comments. We got Jen Lacey. Start with the why, exclamation point.
Yes.
Construction, 8 solutions.
The Y helps people take ownership. Great point, Jesse. Jim Lacey hit back at us with tilling so we can eventually harvest.
Yeah! Yes! Yes!
And then we got Manny coming in with, it all starts with respect for people. In order to create change, they need to trust you and you them. Great point, Jesse.
Boom, baby. Gold. We got gold out there. Thank you, Sean, for calling those out. So learning the process, he gave us 3 big buckets. And then when we actually went out there, receiving wasn't just receiving. Receiving was unloading the trailer and getting the material in the warehouse. Then there was some shaking out of the different components of this stuff that they were assembling. Then there was breaking down of the pallets. Then there was placement of the material in the assembly area. That was all receiving. And so it is in your interest, rather it's required that you go and learn the process for yourself and map it out so that you can, it'll enable you to be more agile in the event that the plan changes. Because I don't know about y'all, but I've been on projects where the plan kind of changes hour to hour, and understanding what's next in line or what is preceding helps us adjust our studies and our efforts so that we don't lose time. And then, big one, ask them what's kicking them in the face. What's bothering them? What's hard for them? And then you get extra credit if you actually do something about it. Because that's what this is all about, like Manny said, right? Respect for people. And those of us in the lean community, we use those words a lot. What I'm trying to articulate here is how to display that, how to embody that, and help them understand that we respect them and that we honor them. So asking them, what's hard for you? What do you need help with? What could we change? They're going to give it to you. And it's going to be a little rougher than you may be used to, but it's all valid. It all counts. Write it down and get prepared to do something about it. Now we're going to get into the critical eye. Some of y'all may have heard the phrase of developing empathy for the worker or for the work. And as I stated earlier, I'm a plumber. I came up second generation plumber, started in 1995. And there's an assumption that I have empathy for the work because I've done the work before. That assumption is false. Because when I was a foreman and a superintendent, I did not have empathy for the worker. I wanted them to do more and I wanted them to do it faster. That is not empathy. Through the development of my critical eye, I learned how to experience a degree of the pain that the men and women out there experience every single damn day. And because I was able to experience that pain through observation, I am compelled to make it better for them. Now, what does that look like as one of the observers? That's me standing here for 30 minutes, writing down steps of all the work, right? And I never wanted to admit it. But every time we had to go out there, I had to put the real jelly, cushy insoles in my boots because after a couple of hours of observation, my knees hurt, my feet hurt, my back hurt. I was not going to complain about that because these people out here they're bending and laying on the ground and contorting themselves and doing all this stuff. So I'm like, man, I'm hurting here just standing here. And I'm watching them just break themselves to execute the work. And that's not cool. I want to make it better for them all of a sudden. Now, if you're already in that space, more power to you. You're going to be ahead of the game. But this is one of the outcomes of developing that critical eye. You will just automatically be compelled to do something about it and to do it now. Talked about it a little while ago, but you will redefine what hard is. Right? When we start understanding hard in terms of what's the impact on the human body over days and weeks and months and years, then we're really having a different level of respect for the people. Because I haven't been on a job yet that has too many people. And the work that they have to do right now is killing them. It is wearing their body down. And if we don't do anything about it, this labor shortage that we're in is only going to get worse. So, redefining what hard work is. All right, we got some comments.
All right, we've got the Lane Foundation podcast. Says listen, learn, and lead with questions.
Oh, that's probably my buddy Davis. The Lane Foundation's podcast, y'all. If you haven't listened to them, you need to listen to them. They are fantastic. They're, you know, we've got a lot of folks coming into the industry, and I've always had a little bit of an issue with some of the folks earlier in their career. They know me as Silver Fox, by the way. They've given me that nickname. These gentlemen from Lane Foundation's podcast are exactly the type of people, the type of hearts, the type of minds that we need out leading our jobs. So, guys, thanks for jumping in and listening to us. Got another comment?
Jen Lacey came in with a question. Is culture the input or the outcome of the success?
I think I know where that one's coming from. I am going to dance around and avoid that one just a little bit. What I will say is applying this methodology will transform your culture. The outcome of this learning will pay dividends in terms of establishing, nurturing, and furthering the culture that we're working to build in our industry, 100%. I think Adam has an answer for that one, Jennifer. I'm cheating a little bit, but I got to. The other thing that happens when we develop that critical eye, talked about empathy, right? Empathy for the worker. Now I have this connection with another human being on a real level. And because I'm driven to do something about it and make the thing better for them, they know my name, I know their name, there's no way I'm going to avoid them going forward. I now become their partner and advocate. And we've had to do this. Sean and I have had to do this. Like, we need to get these guys some whatever, PPE. One of them was, pads, cushion pads, because these guys are spending 2/3 of their day on their knees. Long-term solution would be to elevate the work, but it was this big giant piece of equipment. So we didn't have the means or methods to elevate it all. But short-term solution, let's get them some of those kitchen pads, right? That are kind of cushy and keep you from developing all that pain so that they could work comfortably. What had happened was, we talked to the supervisor, said, hey, supervisor, we need, these pads because it's going to make their life better. And it really sucks doing the work this way. What they ended up getting was knee pads, which kind of makes sense unless you've worked with knee pads on. They're not the greatest. The straps grind into the back of your knee. If they're hard shell and you're working on concrete, they're slipping and sliding all over the place. I mean, knee pads are just not fun. So we had to be advocates and say, no, that's not what we needed. You know what? Let's go buy them ourselves and let's get them the right stuff. Normally, what I'm gonna make an assumption. I don't think I'm gonna be too far off base. My assumption is this: that nobody on this call has ever walked the job and spent more than 8 minutes studying somebody work and looking for the uncomfortable and painful stuff that they deal with every day. At best, we're doing an attendance check. Like, yep, 6 people in the mechanical room here, 3 people over here in the electrical room, 8 ceiling guys. We're not studying the work, and we call that walking the job. For me, that's not walking the job anymore. So lastly, we'll get into behaviors. So one of the behaviors that we fell upon, credit to Mr. John Carrasco, who was one of the members of the first cohort. If you can't tell, I can talk. And so we're spending a lot of classroom time, and it's a mix. We're doing the learning engagement. There's about a 60-40 mix, 60 classroom, 40 field. And John's like, bro, we need to spend more time out in the field. Like, I'm sick and tired of sitting here in the trailer. Like, okay, cool. So we just made a small tweak to the agenda. First thing in the morning, we're going to go walk the job. And this was like totally accidental. We're gonna go walk the job, but I said, well, how do we make this purposeful? So what we just landed on was, we got 2 tasks. One is pick up 3 pieces of trash. Why is that important? Because we as leaders need to display the behavior we're seeking. So we're pissing and moaning about trash being out there on the ground, and we're not taking an active effort to personally pick them up as a display of visible leadership. We're missing the mark. So that was one thing. The other thing was, our charge was to meet somebody new, somebody that we did not know. So then the question is, why is that important? This is why. Everybody, yes?
Does meeting them mean saying good morning?
Ah, beautiful. So Sean asked the question, does meeting them mean saying good morning? Absolutely not. That's just, again, that's the sprint job walk, speed walking, and hey, you don't really know what the hell's going on. Meeting them is saying, hi, I'm Jesse. What's your name? How long have you been on the project? Where did you work before? Are you from San Antonio? Are you traveling in? What do you do on the weekends? What can we do to improve? Learning something personal about that other human being is meeting that human being. Now, every single time we did this, when we went to meet that new person, they responded in a cautious, defensive response. The reason that happens is because, again, I was working for a general contractor. I know several of y'all on the call are general contractors. Think about our safety professionals, because they're amazing. Safety professionals are the best. Think about superintendents, project managers, project executive, project engineers for the general contractor. Majority of the time that those folks are interacting with the men and women that are building these buildings is in a punitive situation. We're correcting them, we're chastising them, we're under the guise of we're trying to keep them safe. We're trying to protect them from themselves. Like, come on. So whenever we go talk to them, they're expecting a tongue lashing. Rarely do we talk to them to say, hey, how are you? I'm Jesse. I'm from the south side of San Antonio, baby. Where are you from? What high school did you go to? Right? And so that started opening the eyes of our learners to like, oh my God, we got a really big problem here. Like, everybody responds this way. Why do you think that is? Now, after you make that type of connection, and this happened a few times, those people will see you and recognize you now as a resource and say, hey, yesterday you asked me if we could do something to make things better. I have an idea. They will bring things to us. They will surface problems before they become disasters. But that only happens when we connect with them. So we got a comment?
All right, got another one here from Jim Lacey. We as leaders need to display the actions we are seeking,
Yes.
creating credibility, vulnerability, and trust. We're talking about that trust, like it's
Trust?
easy, right?
Yeah.
It's not.
No, well said, Jennifer. We must display the behaviors we are seeking. It's easy to lay blame or assign blame to the men and women out there. I mean, I've heard this so many times, it gets under my damn skin. Like, I wish they would speak for themselves. I wish they could think for themselves. Why don't they bring up these issues? They just don't care. Like, it's more likely that your ass never listened to them. And not just you, every other damn general contractor told them, stop giving me your excuses, go to work. I don't want to hear it. Their bosses said, man, we ain't got time to get you that Sawzall blade. Deal with it, suck it up, stop. My favorite one from a old mentor plumber of mine, he said, you know what? I was talking about, we had some snap cutters and one of the wheels was busted. So it was snaggletooth and it would jack up, it would crack, it would crush the pipe. And I'm like, man, we just need to order like a replacement. I figured out how to fix it, but I need a replacement for it. He says, no, that ain't what we need. What we need is some Vaseline. So we could put a little ring of Vaseline around your ankles to keep them sugar ants off your candy ass. That's the environment that we work in. And when we approach a human being and start introducing ourselves and getting to know them, now we're creating that relationship. Because where do relationships start, Sean? In the communication.
They are the communication.
They are the communication. Relationships are the conversations,
Yes.
right? Like, if we're not having those conversations, you ain't got no relationship. So, I'm sorry I'm getting preachy, but if you can't tell, this is really meaningful to me. Now, not only did we have that assignment, but we got back to the room and we debriefed every single morning. And each of us had to say, this is who I met, this is what I learned about them. And every day it had to be something different. And then some other beautiful things happened. We had one superintendent that traveled in from, where was she from? Des Moines. And she like got real vulnerable, to Jennifer Lacey's point. She's like, hey y'all, I'm not really comfortable like doing that by myself. It was her first time on the job, first time in a different city, her comfort level was low. Perfect, we'll pair you up with somebody. And so I'm going to suggest that she's not the only human being out there on a job right now that doesn't have the comfort level to go up to a stranger and introduce themselves. Some of us old snaggletooth people, we may not have a problem with it, but think about your interns and the folks that are just cranking out of university. They may not feel comfortable because there's a huge age divide and there's an experience divide. And so it's a good way to help them build that tool of going out and engaging people. Now we're getting into peanut butter. So another thing that surfaced, and I know somebody on the call right now that's wrestling with this. Another thing that surfaced is that we're high performers. We like kicking ass. We like making money. We like finishing ahead of schedule. We make things happen. But quite often we'll get caught up in perfection. And we're worried about, is this idea right? What if it gets rejected? What if it sounds stupid? What if? We will go through these rounds of talking ourselves out of a good idea. And I'm talking particularly when we get into the brainstorming phase for improvement ideas. Remember, if you remember the Yumazubi charts, that's when we're coming up with improvement ideas. And I've seen it over and over and over again, where somebody will come up with a good idea and oh boy, will say, man, I don't know about that. That sounds kind of dumb. That's going to be ridiculous. Nobody's going to like that. And then it creates this atmosphere of, maybe I'll just keep my ideas to myself. So we stole a little activity to help us create the right environment for brainstorming. And it's an old improv trick, right? You might be able to find it on YouTube. I don't know. But typically when we interact with people, you share an idea and the person or persons with you, they may say no. And when you hear no enough, you shut down. I shut down. I'll stop sharing ideas. Or then you have like the middle really insidious response. Instead of no, they'll say, yes, but. And that's really just a shitty way of saying no. Again, what that does is that kills the creativity, that kills the ideation. But if you say yes and, yes, that idea, and what about this? What we found is that unlocks all kinds, it enhances or elevates the comfort level of everybody in the room, because they're not going to get a no. They're not going to get a yes, but they're going to get a yes and. And of course, the question that's come up when we run that exercise, like, okay, so we're doing this, but what if they're like really dumb ideas? And my answer to that is, it's not up to us to decide which ideas are great and which ideas are horrible. That responsibility, that honor lies in the people. We now, again, this is a human piece. We come up with improvement ideas. We're sitting in the AC, soaking it all up, all comfortable, nerding out with spreadsheets and flip charts. And Now we go back out there and we say, hey team, thank you for giving us the time. Here are some of our improvement ideas. What do you think about them? And I don't know why, but I'm like batting about 180 on my improvement ideas. They never really stick. Sean's their favorite, but I'm just a little hurt. But they'll inform us, and we have to be receptive. And what I mean by receptive is some of us love our ideas so much that we're going to sell them no matter what, because they just don't know better. I know better. It's getting in. I think Manny made a comment about it earlier, right? When we show it's the delivery. Cameron said it. It's the delivery of the thing. So I can come with this list of stuff, and they get to say, nope, that's not a good idea. Or they'll be more frank with the more trust you build with them and say, that's not a bad idea, but I know we're not going to do it because X, Y, and Z. And then we have to honor that. Now, I will say this, that doesn't mean give up on it. They're just not ready for it yet. They've got to get used to the disruption that we're fixing to put into their space. And they will articulate or inform you as to their comfort level of the disruption when they're giving you the feedback on your improvement ideas. And more importantly, most likely they're gonna take your improvement idea and add to it and make it way, way better than what you showed up with. So what point did I miss on that, Sean?
No, that was pretty good. I was surprised on my end, the attitude and the acceptingness of the ideas.
Yeah.
You know, that after they see how much time we put into it and that we actually care.
Yep.
They actually will open the book and give you the goal.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty, I never thought that would happen.
Yes.
It happened way easier than I thought. But you go back to the tilling the ground.
Right.
You need to get to know them before you get in their space.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
We had one guy, remember, one of our learners ended up being one of the crew members.
Yes.
For the
So
guy.
that's a beautiful
We
reminder.
lost him as a learner almost.
One of our learners, because the environment, we spent and invested that time into Jennifer's analogy, we were tilling the ground, and the harvest was one of our learners got recruited onto this install team, and they put his butt to work. Like, when does that ever happen? This guy was a regional safety person, like major responsibility, and he was laying down on the ground helping them do some assembly. It was. I think he just really didn't want to do the damn classwork, but it was amazing because they invited us and welcomed us into their space every time we were around. So socializing the ideas, we come up with improvement ideas. We go back to the people that are doing the damn work, and we socialize those ideas, and they will help guide us and inform us where to exert our resources. You know, we're going to spend money to go buy tools and material or whatever. We're going to spend time to go do that, and then we're going to deploy it. So we don't want to just go grocery shopping and not have an understanding of what flavor people are seeking. And we go buy this stuff, and then here's another huge difference. And maybe it's just me, but I was notorious back when I was the lean champion for a mechanical contractor. I was notorious for visiting a project, looking at scissor lifts and seeing two people on the scissor lift, one of them soldering copper and the other one is like cheering them on, I guess. So I would cut the crew. Like, you got too many people. You don't need two people on that lift. I'm taking that person and reassigning them to another project. Or I would come by and, spend a couple minutes and look at how they're doing things and come up with my list of improvement ideas and say, boom, here's a list of improvements. Go do them. And then I'd come back. And can you guess how many improvements were being done? 0. None. And then I get my feelings are like, man, why don't they want? I'm just doing it for them. Like, I'm done sacrificing myself for them. No, I wasn't. I wasn't doing anything for them, because guess what? I also expected them to meet their production targets. And we are driven by our objectives and our goals. Anything that gets in the way of those things, our natural behavior is to omit them, ignore them, remove them. Improvement is disruptive. We have to take that into account. So how is this different? This is different because we invest, we deploy some sweat equity into actualizing these improvements. So what does that mean? And we got to go get material and build a sawhorse. We're guiding the material, we're cutting the damn wood, and we're putting it together for them. Or if you're Sean, who's like the golden boy for this team, he went home and built a steel rolling table on casters. He went home and did that, hooked it, put it on his trailer, hooked it up to his truck, and delivered it out to the job site. So what I'm saying is, all these improvement ideas that we socialized and got their permission to move forward on, we also go get the material, put the stuff together, and put it in play for them, and in best case, with them, so that they can continue working. And every single time that we've done that, the improvement idea was adopted. They received it, they took it, and they gave us some tweaks, like, hey, you should have done this, an inch and a half higher or whatever. But they received it because we didn't give them extra work. We got their permission, and then we facilitated the improvement. That is one gigantic critical thing. That's the first time I've ever seen it. I learned it, and it's like, that's the only way I'm going to be doing things going forward. And it's difficult because in my head, we're busy. I've got so many people pulling on my shirt that I got to give them a list. You might as well not even do that. You already know the outcome of that. Get some time, build some time into your schedule to help deploy the improvement effort. Like, you can do that tomorrow. This visible leadership, going out, picking up 3 pieces of trash and meeting somebody new, you can do that tomorrow. You can teach the people on your job site how to do that and have a little debrief for that tomorrow. It's going to transform your project. Sweat equity, we talked about, you can do that tomorrow. Partner and advocate for our trade partners out there that are doing that damn work. You can do that tomorrow. Like, this isn't hard stuff, but we don't do that on the regular. I mean, I'd love to hear comments that, yes, you do that on the regular, or that you have like a block in your schedule weekly that you spend at least X amount of hours or minutes intentionally designed, put away, guarded to go out and do these types of things. I bet you don't. Don't hang up on us. Stay there, right? I didn't want to scare you away. So that's the people stuff. That is what I 100% wanted to impart to y'all on this call, or maybe it's not a call, it's live stream. First live stream ever. It's still alive, and I'm happy. I'm excited. You can take these things and go forward. This thing's going to record. You can come back to it, catch all my stuttering, all my ums, all that other stuff, and get some of these takeaways and deploy them on your project right now with your project teams come Monday. Today's Friday, right? Like, do it, try it, put them into action. And then we get to Mr. Rubin. And I might get teary-eyed on this one. Sean, do you remember Rubin? So Rubin was an electrician when we very first got introduced to this methodology. It was like fourth quarter of 2019.
Yeah.
And he was the gentleman that we were studying, that we were learning how to do this stuff by studying him work. And here's a lesson learned. The first time we were studying him, we were writing down all the content of the work, value add, incidental waste. And he was cool. He's like, yeah, watch me, whatever. Just watch me. And he went and did his work. And then we said, hey, man, you want to see what we're doing? He said, yeah, I'm interested. So we had all our sticky note, our big flip chart all up on the wall. And said, hey, Ruben, here's the thing is, you're doing all this work. And he's like, oh, man, you did good. Like, you're paying attention. Thank you for that. I said, and most of it is waste. And his response was, he cursed at me. And he said, blank you, waste. I'm doing half of this stupid shit because that's what y'all want me to do. I was like, whoa, So some of y'all, I know Felipe knows that we don't want to call their work waste because they don't have the same frame of reference that we do in terms of value add, incidental, and waste. But before I get further into that, we got a comment?
Got a comment from David B. Says, sounds like you know what you're talking about. Smiley face.
Smiley face. Because I just keep talking. Thank you, David. A lot of pain, a lot of missteps, a lot of learnings and missteps. That's how I came to understand things the way I do. So don't call their work waste. So I started off on the wrong foot already. Pissed him off, offended him, disrespected him unintentionally, but it's what I did. Then the next time I screwed up, we said, hey, we're going to get you these tool balancers and we're going to get you blah, 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 magnets and lights and like just put them in your workspace. And he looked me dead in the eye and said, well, when the hell am I supposed to do that? I got to hook up all this bullshit. It's like, oh, damn, good point. That's when we learned the sweat equity piece, right? Like we have to help deploy these improvement ideas because they've got production goals to make. Yes, the easy button is, well, talk to their project manager, send them an email, they'll understand. How many times have you sent an email to somebody intending that communication to get down to the worker? And how many times did it actually happen? It don't. Anyhow, so once we deployed these improvement ideas, particularly the tool balancer, the tool balancer, what do you have, a little stepping stool, like a little stool that he made himself that was about 4 inches high.
A piece of pallet.
It was a piece of pallet. That's right. It was a piece of pallet. Put some foam on it.
Put some foam on it.
Yep. Sean went and got some foam from the house, put some foam on it because he put it inside this cabinet, this electrical gear, because he had to kind of crawl in there to do his work or lean on it. Put that little piece of foam on there, minimize the pain that he was dealing with, put the tool balancer into place. And while he was doing the work, I couldn't find the video of it. He's doing the damn work and he turns around and looks at us and thumbs up and a smile like, yes, that's gold. But then the next day he came into work and we're like, all right, Ruben, so what did you think? We got some more ideas. And he said, guys, I wish I'd have done my job this way for years. I'm retiring. Like he was retiring at the end of that year. He's like, if I would have worked this way, I would have been able to work another 5 or 10 years. Then he goes on to say, last night I went home and for the first time, I didn't sit on the lazy boy and pass the hell out. I had energy to talk with my wife. I had energy to play with the grandkids. I've never been able to do that. And that's when I knew, holy hell, this is something that we need to get out there into the industry because it's going to transform lives. It's going to change the life for everybody. Now, it does require immense discipline because if you weren't here at the beginning of the call, we're analyzing things in terms of seconds and minutes, and we're analyzing the motion and the work of one human being. And because of, several of us on the call are general contractors, and we're used to looking at things from a 30,000 foot level. And it is very counterintuitive. How does me spending one time looking at this person, focusing on seconds, translate into schedule savings? How does it translate into quality gains? How does it translate into cash gains if I'm only looking at one person? You're right. That's why you got to be strategic about what you're going to be studying. You want to be studying the type of work that happens hundreds and thousands of times on the job. So think of ceiling grid, think of ceiling lights, think of plumbing fixtures, think of sheetrock, stud. Like there's so many things that are out on our projects that happen hundreds of thousands of times. And if we could take out seconds from each of those activities, we can make the lives better of those men and women that are doing the damn work. And we can have amazing outcomes in terms of financial performance, safety performance, and quality. Any comments? Nope. So, it is 3:05. We are ahead of schedule. But I wanted to give you my contact information. So if you scan the QR code, it's going to take you to a form where you can get my email address. You can get the website, Learnings and Missteps website. That'll take you directly to our podcast. But by the way, you've seen heard us talk about some comments that Ms. Jennifer Lacey share it. And Felipe Engineer Manriquez is on the call as well. We have a collabo session where Felipe and I are mostly just gossiping around the Lean Builder book, which is an amazing book if you're out there looking to learn and enhance your understanding around the last planner system. Jennifer Lacey, if you need a jolt, you may not know that you can get a jolt of energy. Listen to her episode. It's going to get you fired up, especially if culture is an important thing for you. Sign up for the mailing list, and we'll send out monthly updates of little cool stuff that come about out in our industry, some resources to challenge your thinking or expose you to some new thinking. Good? Oh, you may not be able to get that. Or since you're on YouTube, follow on the YouTube channel. There's a link up on the top right-hand corner. It'll take you to the website also. Share it with your friends. I would appreciate that. Good? There's a QR code for you or people in the future, take you directly to the stuff. There's also, at the bottom of that, there's a little question there. What did we do? How could we make this better? We're always seeking to improve. Any comments, thoughts you want to leave with us? I'd appreciate that. Yes?
You have a question?
Okay, question.
Can it be a text?
Ah.
All right, so we said, can you elaborate a little more on how to observe? Using the categories and identifying what is hard, abnormal, periodic, and cyclical, and how that relates to understanding the process you're observing. Maybe share one of the stories on how you learned about cyclical versus periodic.
That's a complex question. Who asked that? That's a good question.
Andrew.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Andrew. So first, I think it's important to understand when we're observing the work is we are watching the human being, and really what you want to be looking at is their hands and the motion of their body. I'm going to drop this one on y'all. Why do we want to look at their hands and the movement of their body? Because time is the shadow of motion. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Right? Meaning the motion happens first. It is the motion that impacts the time or the duration of the activity. So when we're looking at their hands, if you notice, I keep coming over here because I keep putting the damn thing down. The motion it takes to come over here is wasted time. All right? My hands, if you're looking at the room, you're going to miss it. But if you're looking at my hands and you're looking at this beautiful body moving all over the place, we'll be able to understand the different steps in the work. You can observe that when I'm trying to make a point and get real serious, I come up closer to the camera. And when I want to kind of seem academic, I'll come over here and point at a thing. Like those are activities, those are intentional actions that I take. And you would be documenting each of those things. Then you would get the video to make sure, and again, I want to be clear that the video is not absolutely necessary. It is in addition to. So capturing video of the activity gives you 3 benefits. Memory. You don't have to remember anything, or if you forgot something, because I guarantee you will, you can go back to the video and fill in any blanks that you may have. Magnify. If you need to look at things slower or zoom in to get some clarity, video can help you accomplish that. And then mirror, because this has happened so many times. We've studied people work and say, hey man, we see you do this thing like 4 or 5 times, but you don't do it that way all the time. And they'll swear to you, yes, I do. I do it exactly the same way all the time. And then you can use the video to mirror back to them what they're actually doing. And then you say, oh, damn, I didn't realize that. I don't know why I do that. Like, okay, good. So we're breaking down the steps that way. And you have to get those steps in very granular form first. Too many times people want to jump through the classification of all the stuff, and you're spinning your wheels at that point, because the meat, the value, the improvement lies in the details. So you get all of the damn steps. And once you get all of the steps, then you start categorizing. We talked about content, value add, incidental, waste. Then we want to talk about the characteristics. Is it hard? It's a yes or no question. If it's not hard, it's not hard. But if it is, indicate that it's hard, because that is the impetus of all of the improvement ideas. Is it uneven? Yes. Okay. Again, I wouldn't get distracted with the unevenness until you've attacked the hard. Then you go to the next layer, the next level of filtration, which is the categories of work, which would be periodic, cyclical, and abnormal. There's no hard and fast rule, but one indicator that you are on or maybe off track is usually there's a correlation between value-added activities and cyclical activities. Usually there's a correlation between incidental activities and periodic activities. So each activity will be classified as value-add, incidental, waste, and periodic, cyclical, and abnormal. And there's also another correlation between abnormal and waste. It's not a hard, fast rule, but if there's huge variation, like if you got a lot of things that you're identifying as abnormal, but you look back towards the left and you see that you also marked them as value add, that's a good indicator that maybe your definition, that some deeper understanding is to be had. And that, again, when we're transferring this knowledge, there's an enormous amount of debate between what is value add and what is incidental, and what is periodic and what is cyclical. Like almost every time we get into these seemingly knockout, drag out, well, I don't consider that incidental. Well, I consider it value add. Well, can it be both? No, it cannot be both. It's one. And go to the next one. It's only one. And so, our coach, Brian Sanders, who imparted this information to us, helped me understand. You guys can sit in here and deliberate on the minutia of value add and incidental. And while you're doing that in the air condition, comfortable, there's men and women out there sweating their asses off, dealing with hard work. So that gave me a quick reality check. Anyhow, we will do cyclical, periodic, and abnormal. Now, it's important to go through that final filtration because we're going to utilize that to visualize the current state. And I'm going to bring the visual back up to here. So this is what it would look like. This represents X amount of minutes or seconds. This also minutes or seconds, and this minutes or seconds. And then the improvement ideas, we're going to deploy the improvement ideas and again, study the work, capture the video, write down the steps, break it all down to see what the actual outcome was. At this point, this is just a Yumazubi of the target. We don't know what the actual is. And so it would just be a repeat of that, more reps of studying and breaking down the work to help us visualize cyclical, periodic, and abnormal. So these Yumazubi or stack charts are really just a means of our visualizing what it is that we're studying, because it's a time investment to do these kinds of efforts. And there are people with authority and influence that need to understand what's going on, and they're not going to have 75 minutes to listen to somebody explain it. So we've translated it into visual terms. They can digest the information much quicker. I hope that, I don't know if I answered the question or not, but that's my attempt at it.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good? Any other questions or comments?
We had a couple of comments. One is the QR code's not working so hot. It's giving them you do not have permission.
Oh, you know what? Yeah.
And the next one just says plus deltas.
Plus
did not forget about plus deltas.
Plus.
Oh, hey, looky there.
Whoa, what do you know?
He's reading our mind.
I like that. Watch out, baby. So we got 15 minutes, and plus delta, we utilize this technique to help us improve, help us learn. And I'd like to frame it this way because this is how it makes sense for me. We're looking for pluses. What are the things that you experienced through our time together that added value to the time you spent here? And the reason we want to know what that is from your perspective is so that I can continue doing that going forward. I really need to understand, because in this situation, you are my customer. So when you articulate to me or to us what it is that brought value to you, we will make sure that that becomes a part of the process going forward. So please, any pluses, the hair, of course, let me know that the hairs are good. Go ahead. Oh, the shoes.
I'm digging the shoes.
And the
today.
socks, that's a plus, right? We already got that. The Hawaiian shirt, plus, I already know that. Just things that we did. The delivery, the PowerPoint, the camera action. Sean is a master camera operator. If anybody ever needs some help, he does that on the weekends. And then deltas. Deltas are things that need our thoughts, ideas, recommendations to improve the delivery of this material, my delivery, my speech pattern, volume, anything and all is like the only way to hurt my feelings is to not give me feedback. That's going to hurt my feelings. But please give us that feedback so that we can take it into account and incorporate it into the system and the process going forward.
All right, here we go. We got a plus.
All right.
Plus was boiled down a complex process to its essential elements in its simplest form.
Nice. I like that one.
Got another plus here. Great interaction, even though this was a digital live presentation.
Yeah, baby. Watch out.
Another one from Manny here. Delta screen was a little hard to see because it is kind of far away.
Yeah, good call. Thank you, Manny.
Another plus from David P. Plus is having the story to go along with the explanation. Also, the Hawaiian Shirt Friday.
Hawaiian Shirt Friday. Thank you, David.
We had Jim Lacey plus critical versus periodic versus abnormal. Easy to understand.
Boom.
Oh, we got some over here.
All right.
So we got here, Delta would have been helpful to relate the material to a simple field process example that most people would know, like pouring concrete or giving examples of steps that fall into different categories.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Love it. Keep it coming. Oh, and the QR code didn't work, so Delta on that. But again, the subscribe button on the top right hand on YouTube, click it, subscribe, like, comments. Thank you for the comments. Follow, if you wouldn't mind following. We got the Monday morning hugs. There's about, 30 of those now. We've got different video episodes out there. We got some lean flexes. You can check out some more of that goofy stuff.
We got Delta from Jim Lacey. Your head in front of the monitor. Just the monitor up there.
Oh,
Like that, like the TV.
got
Double
The reflection?
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Sure, she's not talking about your mug.
Right. Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
David B. Delta. I signed on late. Luckily, I can go back and watch.
Yes.
I think that's a plus that it's recorded.
Yeah. Well, he's taking ownership for coming in a little behind the
Delta
bell.
got in late, plus that it's
Yes.
recorded, right?
Yes.
Let's see here.
Loving this feedback, y'all. This is very meaningful to me. And this plus first time live streaming. Like, I take that back. It's not my first time. I've done some live streaming with Jennifer Lacey, Construction 8 Solutions with Adam on the construction change makers with Felipe that we do every so often on Saturdays. Hit up Felipe, the EBFC show. He's got a YouTube channel. You can get all kinds of super, like really intelligent conversation around lean stuff.
Okay, we got a couple more came in. We got a Delta. The red font is not visible on the slide background. So I guess through the
it doesn't
video
translate.
screen, you don't see the red.
Thank you for that.
That's a good one.
Yes.
That was Mr. Andrew. And then Manny plus doing it on YouTube so people can come back and watch, like David said.
Awesome.
And they're gonna
Thank you,
plus the example of Ruben was very impactful to illustrate the value.
Boom.
We love Ruben.
Ruben, he's retired now.
Retired. He's living the dream.
Yep. Awesome dude. Super awesome dude. Good?
Kind of feel like we're there.
All right, folks. Well, it is 3:20. Oh, we got another one.
One question, Lacey, your willingness to elevate others that can help add value to your audience.
You know what? As Jen Lacey says that, I'm going to let everybody know right now, keep an eye out for what she's going to be bringing, because she's going to be bringing it hard, like serious.
Awesome.
Good?
I never get.
All right, y'all. Well, appreciate the time we spent together. I'm not going to overwhelm you with too much, Jesse, because I know it's a lot to take, and I don't need any addictions forming just yet. It is going to be 3:22, so very grateful to you for y'all spending your time. Grateful for the feedback that you've provided. We're going to take that and apply it going forward. Shout out to Sean Moran, who has been sucked into this, operating the laptop, reading the comments, messing around with the video screen. He helped secure the space. Like, this would not have happened without Sean. So shout out to Sean. Appreciate you, my brother.
Thanks, it was fun.
What's that?
It was fun.
It was fun. It was a good time. So be cool, and we'll talk at you next time. Peace. Boom.
There you go.